Okay, Shavua Tov, everybody. Welcome. We're on Daf Nun Hey, Amud Aleph on the top. Really, it's the middle of a long sugya, and just to zoom out a second to see what we're talking about. So really, the sugya came because the Mishnah in the beginning of the parak said that the kinyan of Yevama is even with Hara. Hara means that it was only the beginning of the penetration of the bia. It wasn't a Gemar bia, and that's what the Gemara was working on from the beginning, from Daf Nun Dalet over there, the first white line. The Gemara started with 9 La Ram and Torah. How do you know what's the source? That doesn't have to be a complete bia, just the beginning of the penetration is enough. We'll see today's sugya what's called the beginning. That's also a sugya. But how do you know? And the Gemara brought a pasuk about at the end of the sugya that came out that it says by nida. By nida it says the pasuk esmuk hara hara. That's the word hara. That means the beginning. According to our Gemara, at least that it means the beginning of the penetration. And that's the source. But it only says by nida. And then the Gemara continued. How do you know about other rayas? And the Gemara came out to Kesha the Rav Yonah, that he says, and that was enough to learn out all the rayas that hara is enough of in order to be chayiv for chayiv krisus. That's talking about chayiv krisus. And then the Gemara is going to continue today about things that are less than chayiv krisus. That's going to be the continuation of the Gemara. But once the Gemara has said that, the Gemara had a problem with the extra psukim. The Gemara is looking to explain the psukim over there that said about the Gemara brought in the psukim over there where it said other cases of hara. So the Gemara had to explain that. In the subject, it came in that the pasuk about Avasa Chosavicha Lo Sigale is all for drasha, and the Gemara said, where do you see it? My drasha. What is the drasha of all this pasuk? And the Gemara started saying, this is where we're in the middle of the sugya now, that when we say that someone's a brother or a sister, does it make a difference if it's a brother from the common father or the common mother? And the Gemara said that a Chosavicha, the issa to marry a father's sister, is even if it's only from a common mother. Means the halacha to marry a father's sister is not even if the father and the sister are only sisters through the mother, not with the common father. That's also the issur. Also, the Gemara after that brought by a chosimcha, the same thing. The issur to marry a mother's sister is also even if they're only sisters from a common mother. And now, skipping a little bit, we're on the top of Daf Nun Hey. The Gemara just finished being on the bottom of the page earlier. It brought a proof that the halacha that achos ishto, the halacha not to marry your wife's sister is also even if it's from only a sister from a common mother. And that's what we're up to. So far we spoke about a father's sister and a mother's sister. Now we're talking about a wife's sister. That's good. Now we're talking about a wife's sister, and we want to know also that the halacha is the same thing. We need a source for this also. How do you know that the halacha that it's to marry a wife's sister, even if it's only a sister from a common mother? So on top of Nun Hey, and here we go. First, the bottom of the page brought the Mishnah to say that it's true, that's the halacha, that issa to marry a wife's sister is even if it's only a sister from a common mother. And how do you know? Alma, we see from the previous Mishnah on the bottom of the page, how do you know that? So the Gemara tries, and the Gemara is going to go over always with the same drasha. By achoso, by the issa to marry one's own sister, it says beferish that there's no difference if it's from the father or from the mother. That it says basavicha, basimecha, that it says openly. And by dodaso, the issa to marry a father's brother's wife, over there it's the opposite. Over there it's not if it's a father's brother from a common father. That's the one exception that I found so far, that the halacha to marry a father's brother's wife is only if the father and his brother are brothers from the common father. And that's what the Gemara keeps on going each time. It's going to say, on one hand, you have a sister where it says beferish, even if it's from a common mother, maternal. On the other hand, you have the dasa, that it's only also if it's from a paternal, if it's from a common father. And now we're thinking about other things. How do you know about these? So that's how the Gemara goes. First, the father's brother from a common father. That's a given. The father's brother is only right. In order to marry, the issue to marry a father's brother's wife is only brothers from the father. Right, and that's a given. And now we want to know what's the halacha by your wife's sister. So on one hand you have a choseh. Yes, please.
How is that a given? Is there a pasuk clearly saying it, or
which one? Which one is the given?
The father's brother's wife.
That was on the bottom of the page over there. Dodaso. Let's try to find it. Here the Gemara said on Amud Beis Dodaso. Where does it say that? Dodaso. Here, this is it. Dodaso. Here's the doso. That's what the Gemara asked it yesterday. How do you know that a father's brother's wife is only aser if it's a father's brother from the common father? And the Gemara said you learn it out from over there, dodo ben dodo. Over there's mishpachto. Over there means the mishpachas av kuya mishpacha. Mishpachas aim enukoi mishpacha. So that was a given already. Okay. That was Gzera Shava, to learn what a dodo means. It means a dode is only called a dode over there, at least from Gzera Shava, from the common father. So here the Gemara starts on the top. How do you know about a wife, sister? So on one hand, we try. Why not learn that from a sister? Just like it's us to marry, to have relations with one sister, even if it's a sister only from a common mother. So too, the Issa to marry your wife's sister, we'll say it's the same thing. But the Gemara says, no, on the other hand, you have dodoso. But Leila fi dodoso, ma dodoso menavalom menaim, afkan menavalom menaim. That Allah, you're not allowed to marry a father's brother's wife is only if it's a father's brother that are brothers from the common father. So you don't know which one is more similar to. So the Gemara tries to figure out which one is it more similar to. We'd rather learn out from a sister. We want to learn out a wife's sister. A wife's sister, let's learn out from one's own sister, because it has to do nothing about his father. Though that's the same generation. His sister, his wife's sister, at least that's on the same level. But it's not his own relative, it's his wife's relative, but it's still on that generation. But to learn out from the also means his father's brother, that's already a generation up. So this would be more similar. But the Moshe says, no, on the other hand, there is a similarity the other way. That the wife's sister came to you through marriage. That means because there's two wives. It has something to do with marriage over there. Of one's own sister has nothing to do with marriage. It's a sister. But a wife's sister would be more similar to a father's brother's wife. That has something to do with marriage over there. So on one hand, it's similar to a sister. On the other hand, it's similar to a dodoso, to a father's brother's wife. So we don't know which one to learn out from. So now we're back to where we started from. What is the halacha about achos ishta, that is also to marry your wife's sister? What kind of a sister? So here the Gemara says, we learn it out from the halacha of a brother's wife, which we don't know anything about yet. But the Gemara is telling us now that a brother's wife is going to be, even if it's a brother from only from a common mother, that's enough to be usher, that you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife, even if he's only a brother from a common mother.
Which is a low level of family, right?
It's the same level. That it's the same level. It's not a level up. It's not a generation before. And also it's through marriage. It's probably similar. So if you know that a brother's wife is also to marry, even if it's only from a common mother, so too, a wife's sister is also also to marry, even if it's only from a common mother. And that's the truth. The Gemara is saying the truth. This is the truth. Just the Gemara still didn't explain to us, how do you know, who told us this fact, that a brother's wife is also, even if it's only when it's a brother from a common mother. That also is not a given yet. Are we following?
We're talking about that the brother and this guy, the brothers are from a mother.
Right. The fact that it's also to marry your brother's wife, what if it's only a brother from a common mother?
Not from
the same father. So that the more saying is a given. We'll see in a second why it's a given. Okay. And now once we know that, so we're going to say that the issa to marry a wife's sister is also only if it's a sister from a common mother. So far, the only exception I see so far is only the dosa. The issa to marry your father's brother's wife is only if it's from a common father. That's an exception. Because of that one exception, we have to each time learn out the special pasuk to learn out that all the other brothers and sisters are even if it's only from a common mother. And holding by Eishes Ach. How do you know that? The Eishes Ach Gufim and Allah. Who told us that? Who told us that issa to marry your brother's wife is even if it's only from a common mother?
The Shekain Devar.
Oh, the Shekain Davar Sha'al Kedushin, the Krovi Yasmin. The word just explained these two words over here. That on one hand we said that something is similar. That the wife's sister on one hand is similar to a sister. The two classical cases is a sister. The issa to marry one sister is even if it's only from a mother. That's a given. That's the classical given. And on the other hand, the other side of the ring is going to be the issa to marry your father's brother's wife is only if it's from a common father. So one had a mila that is through, not a mila, but a similarity that it's on the same generation, not in the father's generation. The other one was that is through marriage. And now if we have Eishasach, that has the same similarity to a wife's sister in two ways, on both points. Both for us, Kendav Aldei Kedushin is done through marriage. And also Kirby Yatsma, that is his own generation level, not the father's generation. So that surely you can learn out. If you have all these choices, we're surely going to learn out from Eishasach that Achos Ishto is also Aser, even if it's from a common mother. That's going to be the halacha. They weren't just looking for the drushes. And I think one wants to know who told us this is true. Who told us that Issa to marry a brother's wife is even if it's only a brother from a common mother. The Tanya, same thing over again. The pasuk says that you're not allowed to marry a brother's wife.
When you're talking about lot tegale, by marriage or by bilat znut?
Bilat znut. It's going to be bilat znut. It's a ichiv kari, so it's going to be bilat znut.
עילת זנות.
עילת זנות, yeah, this is all
לא
זנות.
תופס קידושין.
נכון.
לא,
But
לא,
the
לא,
Chiyav
לא,
Koresh, or the Issa, talk about the Issa even. Is it Asa to marry? Is it Asa? No, so he died. Right? That doesn't make a difference, right? Even if he died, he divorced her, died.
אלא אם בייבום.
We'll get to Yibum. Yibum is a different story.
Yes.
So here we want to know the Issa of marrying a brother's wife. Is it even if it's only a brother from a common mother? How do you know that? So again, we're going to say on one hand, say it's like a sister. On the other hand, say it's like a doda. How do you know? Maybe it's only if it's from the father, not with the mother. Maybe a common mother is not enough to make it usher to marry that kind of a brother's wife. But dinu, I could say on my own, a kalvachomer, not a din, whatever. Learn out of mamatzinu. Just like a sister, by sisters, even from a sister's usher to have relations with one sister, even if it's only from a common mother. So too, this halacha of a brother's wife, also, even if it's only a brother from a common mother. Oh, kalach derech zu. On the other hand, dinu means that we can learn it out by ourselves. We don't need a pasuk. We can learn it out by ourselves. But the Gemara says, no, it's not true. Kalach derech zu. Maybe to go to another svara. Kalach means like go, like lech. Kalach lech lecha. Go on the other path. You could say a different reasoning that it's only if it's from the common father, the same way you see by a doda, by the Allah that you're not allowed to marry or have relations with the father's brother's wife is only if it's from a common father. That's what we always do. We always look at these two classical cases. These are the givens. So the Gemara says, okay, let's figure it out. Which one is the more similar to? We're talking about Eisha Sach, a brother's wife. Which one is the more similar to? To a sister or to a father's brother's wife? Done in Krovayas, that one here, it's more similar on the same level of generation. That it's going to be this, that to marry a brother's wife will be on the same level as marrying one sister. So we'll say that it's going to be, even if it's from a common mother, maybe not. On the other hand, you have the other svara. That if you talk about a brother's wife, that's talking about marriage, or some kind of issue through marriage over there, the brother's wife. So too, that's going to be this similar to a father's brother's wife. Isn't that more similar? And say that it's only going to be if it's through a common father. So now we go to the maskana. There's an extra pasuk when it talks about the Issa, you're not allowed to marry a brother's wife. It ends off extra pasuk to tell you that even if it's only from a brother from a common mother, is also asa. So far today we learned two things. One is that a wife's sister is asa to marry even if it's only sisters from a common mother, and also a brother's wife is asa to marry even if it's only from a common mother. But the Gemara's not so happy yet. The Gemara has an attack on this. The pink is an attack on the green. That the pasuk is saying Ervas Achicha Hi is enough of a pasuk to learn out. Even Menay, maybe not. I have a different choice of drasha. I can learn out something else from this pasuk, and then you won't be eligible to learn out that even if it's from a common mother, maybe it's not true. Maybe the issue of marrying a brother's wife is only if it's from a common father. The brother is only a brother from a common father, and if it be from a common mother, there's no such din. And this pasuk, I don't have a right that is tafka from telling you a mother. I'll have what to do with the pasuk. That maybe the pasuk is talking about only from a brother. To marry a brother's wife is only from a common father. But the reason why you have to have an extra pasuk is to tell you, even if when he has children, that man that he's alive, he divorced her, and he has children. So then it's also to marry. That would be the given. That would be the pasuk of the case that you're not allowed to marry a brother's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then one wants to tell you that even if it's also that it's also it's chayv chorus, it's also to marry even if he divorces her. He does not have children, but he divorced her. The first one was yesh lo banim. He has children. This is getting closer to Yibum. But Yibum, we know that it's with her. Right. So it's not right. But this is not Yibum because it's b'chayim bala. Means they just divorced her. The brother divorced his wife. He has no sons, but he divorced his wife. Is a mutter to marry. So you might think it's mutter. So you have to have an extra pasuk to say that it's asa. But the more jumps up. We learned that already. That was yesterday's Gemara. But there was a rush yesterday we had on Amud Beis that already learned it out. So we don't need another pasuk for that. So it's extra. If it's extra, learn out that it's coming to tell you bein menaim. That's what we're looking for. But the more it tries again, maybe this drasha bein menaim is wrong. Maybe it's not coming to tell you that it's also even from a common mother. But the reason why you need the extra pasuk is to tell you the yesh labanim b'chayei bala. That's one case which we the pasuk the case where there's a chiyuv Kores for marrying a brother's wife. He has children. He divorced her, but he has children.
למה קשור את זה לילדים? מה זה קשור?
No, yesh labanim, because we know Hebrew. When there's no when he dies and there's no children.
יש פה עניין של ערוות אחיך.
Yes, but we know that Erbas Achicha goes off when there's evil. Because that's the din of
ואם אין
evil.
לבנים והוא בחיי בעלה,
Okay,
אז מה אתה מביא ילדים?
we know that when there's no children and he dies, that's the din of evil. That's when there's evil.
אבל זה בחיי.
So, okay, but here we're talking about that. It's closer to evil, I think, when there's no children. Yeah, now yesh, but if he died, yesh labanim. The more wants to say that maybe need a pasuk la'achar misas bala. That he one point is when he's alive, but he divorced her, and one would be when he died. But yesh labanim. This is the pasuk of the case is no yibum because he has children. But the Gemara says, but that we know already. Yesh labanim la'achar misas bala l'tzricha kra. With Amar Rachman she'ein labanim muteres yesh labanim masura. Of course, we could know by ourselves that if he has children, it's also to marry because it says when is it mutter to do yibum? When he has no children, he died, then he has no children. So if we could deduce on our own, we could derive that if he would have children, so then there will be also to marry. Isn't that pasuk? Isn't that olive base? We don't need a pasuk for that. The Gemara says no. V'dilma ein labanim masur la'alma v'shari liyavam. Yesh labanim shari la'alma v'shari liyavam. Maybe really, if he has children, the pasuk is saying a difference between yesh labanim and ein labanim. It's true. Ibum is only ein labanim, but then ein labanim means we want to marry dafka the yavam. So ein labanim, he died and he has no children. So then it's also to marry anybody else. Yivam l'shuk, he's also to marry somebody else. We want dafka to stay in the family. But maybe if he would have children, then it's mutter to everybody, mutter to the yavam also. Maybe there's no issue to marry a brother's wife after he dies. Maybe the pasuk only says when there's no children and he dies and no children, then dafka to stay in the family, dafka the brother-in-law should marry, and nobody else should marry her. She can't marry out. But if he has children, so then maybe it's mutter for everybody, which is true, and maybe it's even mutter for the yavam also. We wouldn't be able to deduce that it's also for the yavam. Yes, you're right. You're right. The mitzvah of yavam is only when he doesn't have children. But let's say he has children. So you know the truth. You're stuck by the truth. What can you do? You're stuck by the truth that it's true that if he has children, then it's asa, then it's chorus. But the Gemara is suggesting without a pasuk, you wouldn't have known that. You would have thought that if he has children, it's also mutter for him to marry. If he has no children, then dafka the yavam should marry. Nobody else should marry. Do yivam. But if there are children, so she can marry the yavam if she wants. Maybe the isra of a host, not because of yivam. The isra of marrying your brother's wife goes off after he dies. If he has children, she's allowed to marry out. If she doesn't have children, she's not allowed to marry out. But you can't deduce from there that it will be the isra for a brother-in-law to marry after the brother dies. Maybe the isra of marrying a brother after the brother goes off after the brother dies. Inami, another possible kasha would have been ein labanim mitzvah yesh labanim mishus. It's true. The mitzvah of Yibum is only if he has no children. Maybe that's only like chiyuv, then he's supposed to mitzvah. But if he has children, there's no mitzvah. But he could maybe it's permissible to marry your brother's wife after he dies. And the third choice, inami ein labanim in yesh labanim lo. It's true. Maybe we could have derived that it'd be usher to marry the brother's wife if he had children, but it's only going to be an asay. It wouldn't have been asay. It only would have been the severity of a mitzvah saseh. It wouldn't have been chayiv kares. Who tells us that it's going to be a chayiv kares, that if he marries his brother's wife after he dies, if he has children, that it's chayiv kares. So all this was to ask a kasha. The kasha was, how do we learn out to hold in that it's usher to marry your brother's wife, even if it's only a brother from the mother? This extra pasuk, but the Gemara is challenging that you have other drushes to do with it. If you have another drusha to learn out, if it's necessary to have another drusha to learn out that you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife even after he dies if he has children, so then you have no extra pasuk to learn out this halacha that even from a maternal brother is usher to marry his wife. The Gemara answers, Kasaf Krachvi, Erva Sachib Gila. But what you want, this whole kasha we asked that you need a pasuk to tell you that it's usher to marry, even in a case where he has children, he died, all these cases. So we have a pasuk to tell you that. So the pasuk here, Erva Sachicha Hi, this pasuk is extra. Two different pasukim. One is Erva Sachicha Hi, one is Erva Sachib Gila, two different pasukim. So this pasuk is extra. So since it's extra, we can learn out that it's usher even from a common mother. And that's the truth, the way we started, that it's usher to marry your brother's wife, even if it's only a brother from a common mother.
How did you read this? The asay asay.
This is a lava bomachlal asay. That if let's say there's a positive commandment.
If a positive commandment that comes with a law.
Not that it comes with a law, you derive a law. That if the Torah says marry, here's the case: marry the brother's wife if he has no children. We could derive that if he has children, don't marry.
Oh, that's a law that comes mikla.
Right, it's the right.
And
It's
that-
only
that
odd the
law
ribbon.
is called an asay.
Right, that only has the severity of an assay. It's like the mother
Oh,
says, clean up the room, and he made a mess in the room. So the mother says, I said clean up the room, so you should understand that you
Don't
shouldn't
make
make a
a
mess. So, but it only has the severity of a positive commandment, not the severity. If the mother would have said, don't make a
And
mess,
don't make a-
that's
clean up the
called,
room and don't make a mess.
that's two things. That's an assay and a los assay.
Yeah.
If she just would have said, don't make a mess, and he made a mess, he transgressed a negative commandment. The mother said, do not. Here the mother said, make a
Oh, so
clean
he
room.
just didn't do what the-
Right, even though he did it with an act, he did something, but he transgressed the positive commandment by doing something wrong. So but that wrong is only the severity of a positive commandment.
So the law here is not a transgression. The law is
He
he
did
didn't do what the asay said.
no, he did something which was against the positive commandment. He actively did something.
Okay.
הוא עשה לאו.
Who עשה נגד המשמעות של העשה. He did against what could be was implied.
Here,
Here,
by-
law, I thought law meant negative.
No, so it means it means negative instructions that are derived from a positive commandment.
What's the positive commandment? Yeah.
Marry the brother's wife if he has no children. And we could derive, do not marry the brother's wife if he has children. But the severity of that, do not, is only as strong as the Raseh. So therefore, the Gemara is asking, maybe that's why I need the pasuk. The Gemara says we have a pasuk that it's also to marry your brother's wife, even if he has children. It's also to marry. Let's get back to the Chiv Koros, and this pasuk here is extra. Was extra, and therefore you learn out that it's also even if it's only a brother from the common mother. The Gemara is the kasha, and this is whatever the fourth wide line. But ema eisha sach min ha'av ke'eisha sach min eisha sach min ha'im ke'eisha sach min ha'av ma eisha sach min ha'av lachar misas ba'al ha'sharya af eisha sach min ha'im lachar misas ba'al ha'sharya. Maybe the issa, it's true. We're listening to you that it's also to marry a brother's wife from the mother also. Nachon, to say that good, but maybe after the husband the brother dies, maybe it's mutter to marry. Now the truth is it's not. It's only mutter to marry a brother's wife if it's from the common father. It's the mitzvah of yibum. If somebody's brother dies and he has no children, it's a mitzvah of yibum to marry his wife only if it's from the same father. But there's no mitzvah of yibum from the same mother. Someone who has a brother from the common mother only and he died without children, there's no mitzvah of yibum. And the Gemara is asking maybe that the same way that the issur of marrying the widow, the brother's wife, the brother's widow is only if he has no children, that issur goes off. If it's from a father, maybe by a mother also it goes off. It says avas achicha he that it remains. That it remains also. It doesn't go off at all. The issur to marry a brother's wife from the common mother never goes off. Issur to marry your brother's wife from the common father goes off in the case of Yibum, if he has no son, if he died without any children. But the issur to marry a brother's wife from the common mother never goes off because there's no mitzvah of Yibum. And Rashi says we know there's no mitzvah of Yibum, but you might think there's no issur kares either. No, it doesn't go off. So the Gemara is happy. What? It's going to be kares also. It's going to be kares. Yeah, it's going to be kares. It's going to be kares. That's what Gemara said. So far we learned the main sukkah we learned so far is two main sukkahs so far, that both by achot ishto and also by eshesach, by the issur to marry your wife's sister and the issur to marry your brother's wife. Both of them is even if it's only a common brother or sister from a mother, even if it's a maternal brother, maternal sister, also it's us. The Gemara has some side questions now. Achoso, why is it keep coming up over here? Achoso the kasav kares lamali. It says by a sister. It says again that it's chayv kares. It's chayv kares to marry a sister, and the Gemara says you don't need the pasuk. We know that it says kares by all the arayos, and there's no reason why it says especially by a achoso that it says kares. That's the kasha. How come it says the issur kares? It seems to be a side point. I didn't get the connection. It seems to be a side point that once we know kares, it seems to be a side point. I'm not sure. How come the pasuk specifies that it's kares? It says by all the arayos it's kares. The answer is Rabbi Yochanan. What if somebody had relations with many arayos? And he didn't know the halachas, he had relations with a few arayos. Is he chayiv only one chatas, so he's chayiv chatas for each one? So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says, that he's chayiv for each one. But not the same erba. He had with a sister and with a few different issues, had different relations. So he's chayiv for all of them. There's a different opinion. That's what do you do with this chorus? How come it says chorus bachoso? That was the question here in the yellow. That was the question. We had two answers. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yochanan says in order to learn out that if he had many different relations with different arayis, it's high for each one. And Rabbi Yitzchak learns out something else, that choso is unique, that if they didn't give him what's the word? Hasra. They didn't give him a warning about chorus, but they told him he's chayiv malchus. He's not chayiv malchus. That's one exception. Usually on all the chayiv krisos, it's also a lo saseh. And if they said that if you do this, you're going to be chayiv malchus, it's chayiv malchus. But he says a choso is an exception. There's no malchus on a choso. Someone had relations. They told him the various don't have relations with your sister. If you are going to be chayiv malchus, he's not chayiv malchus because the pasuk that says over there, the lo saseh is coming for something else. It's not coming. The pasuk has a unique pasuk over there to say for courage, no malchus. So according to him, how do you know what Bechman's din that if he had relations with different arayis, that is high for each one? The chalik menolan, a different pasuk. Not kalei ve'el isha v'nidas to masal v'chayev kala isha v'isha. Over there, the pasuk says ve'el isha. It has an extra pasuk over there by nida to say that every woman that he has, every kind of erba that he had relations with is going to be chayiv. And I could be even if it's the same erba. I didn't look at Rashi over here. Even if it's the same type of erba, also maybe is chayiv for each one since it's different people. Rashi seems to be talking about different kind of arayas. That's what it sounds. Rashi sounds like it's one kind of arayas, but I would even think the Gemara talks about if it's the same kind of erba, but many different people. Also, it's going to be high for each one. Okay, that came in as a side point. The Gemara has another question over here. So it says also the word aririm. One pasuk says aririm yehiyu. One pasuk says aririm yamusu. Aririm means to die without children, and that's a kind of a chorus. Chorus talks about chorus and ariri, and Rashi says that this is also part of the kasha that it's to be included like everything else. The Gemara doesn't see anything that ariri is more chamor than every kind of a chorus. So the kasha is how come by dodaso it says aririm, and also two psukim in a row. I'll just open it up. I'm sorry.
The Gemara does or doesn't find it a rereading.
I think I don't think that it's different than a regular chorus. Maybe every chorus includes that. I just want to find the pasuk over here. This is in Kedoshim, Perek Chaf. Here it says, where does it say two psukim in a row? One is by Dodoso, and one is by Esha Sachiv. That's talking about a brother. How does it go? Dodoso, a father's brother's wife. So it says that there's in behind chorus over there says Aririm, and also by Esha Sachiv, also it says Sachiv Gila Aririm Yiyu. For both of them it says chorus, and the Gemara is asking three questions. One is by Achoso, how come it says, and one is by Dodoso, and one is going to be that it says by Esha Sachiv. How come by these three it says chorus? Why do we know all of them are chorus? So why does it have to say explicitly? The first one the Gemara said two choices about Achoso, either L'chayv V'Kolachas V'Yachas or L'Duna V'Chorus V'Lo B'Malchus. Now the Dodoso, why does it say the Chidei Rabbah? As Rabbah explained, the Rabbah Rami. Rabbah has the contradiction. Ksiv Aririm Yiyu or Ksiv Aririm Yamusu. Two psukim. They're about different kinds of erba, but one of them says they will be Aririm. The other one says they will die Aririm without children. Yeah. What is the different? How come it says a different nuance? Okay, it said Yesh Lobanim Kovran. Ein Lobanim Olech Aririm. How did we tell him? How are we saying that he's not going to have children? One is that he has already children and they're going to die. The punishment is going to be that the children that are already born are going to die. The other one is that they didn't have children, and he's not going to have children. Those are the two ways. Aririm Yamusu means, which one means which?
The children that he had the Kovran.
But which one is which one? Aririm Yamusu, Rashi says means
that Aririm would be that he buried his children.
These children came from this lady, or
maybe Rashi said Aririm. Both of them are plural. One said they will be Aririm, one they will die Aririm. Rashi said Aririm Yamusu means that if they already have no children, they will die. So,
yeah,
and that means that what is the chiddush? That they're not going to have children anymore. They didn't have children till now, and now we say we're going to die. They're going to continue to be Aririm. They're not going to have children. If it says Aririm you, that means right now they have children, but they're going to become Aririm. They're going to become without children. The children are going to die. And the Gemara says
from this wife or other wife.
The one whoever did Avera, that's a punishment. They're going to die Aririm. So here the Gemara says, how come you have the chiddush for each? Why is one a chiddush? Say whichever one is a chiddush. The Gemara says both of them are chiddushim. Ischach l'michtav Aririm Yehiyu. Ischach l'michtav Aririm Yamusu. Both of them are chiddush. Because of Rachmana Aririm Yehiyu have a mena ad chatay. Aval mechatay ve'elach lo. Which one is a bigger chiddush? The children that they had before the sin are going to die, or the children that from now on the children are going to be born? So you might think either way. You might say that if it would say one way, you would see that the ones that were already there, they're going to die, but not that if he has children now after the sin, maybe they're not going to die. Only the ones that he had children and then he did this avera. Maybe the punishment is going to be that the children that were already born are going to die, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to have any more children. You might have thought. And that means that if they're going to be born now, they're going to die. Because the opposite is for maybe the punishment is from now on, any children that are born are going to die. But if you have children that were before avera, maybe they're not going to die. That's why it says stricha. You need both of them to say that the punishment is no matter if they had children before or they're going to have children in the future, they're going to die without children. That was all a big tangent that's been going on for like a long time. This is all extra credit, a bonus, a big cruise. You're going on a cruise, and they say, Dito, we're going on a side cruise. And now we're going back to the main course. And this goes back to the Amud Aleph before. We started the sugya over here on the first white line on Daf Nun. Oh, I'm sorry, where did that go? Up, this has to go down. This was on Daf Nun Dalet over there. The first white line started about Hara min Torah. How do you know that Hara is enough to be chayiv? And it really is not somebody. Always by chayve krisis, if people had illicit relations of chayve kores, that even if they didn't do a full bia, it wasn't a complete penetration. This was the beginning. That is chayv. That was what we did till now. We came out in the beginning that it says by nida hara, and it says hakesha de Rav Yonah. You learn out that all our eyes are the same. So far we figured out with a lot of extra credit also. But the main thing we figured out was that by chayve krisis, even hara. Even the beginning of a penetration isn't not nishika. Okay, we'll see soon. That's going to be the end of the segment. We don't know what it is yet. Hara means the beginning of the penetration is enough to be chayiv chorus. And now the Gemara continues way down the road. Here we're on a page later. Then hey, with all the way on the bottom, 5 lines to the bottom. Hara v'chayiv lavin minallah. So what we just learned about chayiv krisis. How do you know that even chayiv lavin is also enough? That a beginning of a penetration is enough to be chayiv for that avera. But the answer is, there's one place where it says that it's not enough to have hara. That's by shivcha charufa. There's a question what shivcha charufa means. Rashi learned simple over here that it means shivcha kananis that was designated to Eved Ivri. Shivcha kananis is shivcha, not a goya. She's a chassi goya. She was tova l'shem shivchus. But and you're allowed to designate her to an Eved Ivri. That's called she's preface la'ish. She was designated for a man, so she's not Eisha Sis Ramish, but she was designated to. So it's not going to be Eisha Sis. She's not Eisha Sis, but it's also it's allowed. It's allowed to have relations with a Shivcha Kananis. And now it's also the fact that she's miyuad to a Eved Ivri. So there's a korban to bring if he has relations with her. So over there it says it's only also if the relations that this man had with this shifra is a complete relation, not only hara. Hara is not enough. Here it says shechva zera. The Gemara seems to say that doesn't mean shechva zera mamish that he had to mimotzi zera, but he had to have a complete penetration. So and that's a chayv lavin. The fact that over there it says something special, over there it's only a complete penetration. Everything else is going to be even with the fact that you have to have a pasuk to say that specific one is only with a complete penetration, so that we could arrive that every other chayv lavin would be already transgressing, even if it would have been the beginning of a penetration. But the Gemara says, they can make a different deal. The fact that the pasuk tells you the first Rashi we said by nida over there said hara, so you could be medayek that only chayv krisis, but less than that not. No. If it would have only been by chayv krisis, then you wouldn't have to have pasuk special pasuk by shivcha charufa. It's any chayv lavin. It's mashma. The fact that it only picked out one chayv lavin to say that over there it has to be a complete penetration, that proves that every other chayv lavin is not a complete penetration. And the more happy with that Russia. That's how we know that hara b'chayv lavin, because by shivcha charufa, which is also a chayv lavin, over there it says that it's only a complete penetration. From there we can learn out that every other chayv lavin would be chayv even by hara alone. The bottom line. How do you know? But especially so not a chayv lavin, only for a kohen. Like this week's parsha, today's parsha, that it said about grusha to a kohen hediot, almana to kohen gadol, all these specialized averos only for a kohen. How do you know over there also that it's going to be transgressing even with hara alone, the beginning of a penetration? Answer kicha. It says the word kicha. Rashi says, does Rashi say? Where does it say kicha? Ksiv gabi chayve krisus, and here it says, today's parsha, it says, lo yikach, amanog mushav, chalalaz, I say lo yikach, it says the word kichas. If you know by chayve krisus, that it's even haras, so too by chayve lavin tekuna. The chayve yaseh minola, the last words on the page, how do you know even chayve yaseh? Chayve yaseh is going to be like a mitzri adomi, that it says married the third generation, means the first two generations are not allowed to marry. So how do you know that even there also the penetration alone that transgresses the aseh? Asya bia bia. Rashi says b'chayve lavin. It says the word lo yevamos. That's an example of a chayve lavin. And here it says by chayve yaseh. It says the third generation Yavol B'Kal Hashem. That how does it say that? Say also Lashon Bia. Say have a Gzera Shava. Chayve Krisus Chayve lavin. They are psukim to learn out hara. And now by Chayve lavin tekuna, you learn out from Krisus, and Chayve yaseh, you learn out from Chayve lavin. Top line, Yevamos l'shuk minolan. How do you know that there's also by Yevamos l'shuk? Yevamos l'shuk means that she's Chayv Yibum, and she didn't. She married, instead of married Yevon, she went out to marry somebody else, which is Lo Sia Eish Samei Sachutza Lezor. So how do you know that? Without chalitza, she didn't do chalitza, and she went and married somebody else. She did avera. So that avera is that also only with the penetration alone. The beginning of a penetration alone is enough to make that they transgress. Only a complete penetration. What's the problem? Whatever it is, it is. The issa to marry Yevamos l'shuk, that a Yevama marries out without getting chalitza. Is that allowed? Where I say? Rashi brings down it's a machlokas later on. On one hand, it says lo siyeh eish samei shachutza lezor. That's a lo saseh. And the other hand, it says Yevamo yavo aleha. That's a say.
I'm sorry, it's not going to answer the question of how much penetration.
It is, because whatever it is, it is. It's in a category. They're already categories. We know already chayve krisus. We know already chayve lavin. We know already chayve yaseh.
It's not a phobia that's called the law.
No, again, there are relationships that are also because of chorus, right?
Yeah.
There are relationships that are chayve bezdin. There are relationships that are chayve lavin. There are relationships that are chayve yaseh. All that we learned out already. That is chayve. We have drushes already. We finished it already. That they're all chayve with the beginning of a penetration. Now we have a question of Yevamos l'shuk. So Yevamos l'shuk, which category is it? Is it an asay? We learned it already. Is it a lav? We learned it already. You don't have to have a new drasha for each example of a chayve lav and chayve asay. So if we already learned out, we learned that if it's a lav, we learned it. If it's asay, we learned it already. So what are you asking questions? It's just another. So the Gemara said you're right. We didn't mean that. Not the Yevamos l'shuk. Yevamos l'yevavam. That they this is really our mission. This is what we're looking for. We could have left out the 3 daf. We just wanted to know in our mission that it says that hara is kona v'yevama. That's the subject. This is what we're looking for. How do you know? We really don't need everything for our subject. Of course, we learn from it. But as far as our Mishnah, this is what we're learning. Yevama l'yavam. When the yavam has relations with the yevama, is the beginning of a penetration enough to be kona. That's what we want. Ase bia bia. That's the answer.
Why did they ask this?
It was a mistake. It means when the Gemara asked, that was a misquote. Yevamos l'shuk. What's the question? Lav say whatever it is. You're right. We didn't mean that. Yevamos l'yavam. That's the question. How do you know when the Yavam has relations with the Yevama that even the beginning of a penetration is enough to be Kona, which is our Mishnah? The answer is Asya Bia Bia, which means once you know by Chayve Lavin, that was top of the page. By Chayve Lavin, it says the word Bia, like Mamzer, Lo Yavo Mamzer, and also by here it says Yevamo Yavo Aleha. It has lashon of Bia, so we know that by Yevamo also he's Kona with a tchilas Bia. Even a Tahara is enough to make Kona. And the Gemara continues a little bit. Isha l'balam in Elon, when a man marries a wife, that the beginning of the penetration is enough to be kona her already. She becomes his wife. She comes in the suah. Asi kicha kicha. That by a man kikachish isha says the word kicha. We said before by chayve krisus says kicha. So all these things they're all then by a beginning of a penetration. And the only one I see that's an exception is only shifcha charufa.
So heder yichud would not.
Heder yichud is
doesn't prove that there was any kind of.
Right. So does that make her in a suah? So it's a kill the chuppah royal labia. The fact they have enough time, the Adam wait outside, the 5 minutes that it takes, that it's possible to have a bia, that's enough. It doesn't have to be that.
It's enough that they're married.
Yeah. So they're married already from the giving the ring. She's already in arusa, and then the suah could be either. It really doesn't have to. Don't have to wait dafka. Even if they don't have a chedi yichud, so when they go home at night, so then they'll be in the suah. It's only a question of making the suah right away. If it's not going to be 5 minutes after the chuppah, so it'll be when they come home at night, they go into their own house, that's already going to be a chuppah. Some say also you don't have to have yichud, it just has to be like a makom yuchad, even if it's open room, but they have their own place. There's even if it will be open. Yeah, like the chuppah. Some say the chuppah itself. Some say no, that's Kesef B'Shtar is just for the kedushin, for the erison, not for the nesuin. He gives her a ring, or he gives her a star. Nowadays, everyone gives a ring, so that's kedushin. She's an arusa. She's an eshes ish. If they want to separate, they need to get. It's already marriage, but that's only kedushin. But nesuin is when they come in together. So coming together is chuppah, which we make the canopy for that purpose. That is a designated place for him. Some of Machmat have the nesuin. That's called the nesuin.
Meaning they have a
So you
chevron.
don't really need the.
I think the Sfardim don't do the chedei. Is there any difference if there's when the beer happens itself? I'm not sure.
Okay,
What
because
do you mean?
a friend whose wife whose kala was a nina, so you can't say.
You're right. So she's in the suah. Chuppah's needed. Right. The marriage is a good kedushin. Kedushin is
Even
good for
without
nesuin
the
also.
yevamos.
Right. But I don't know the details. We'll get to kedushin one day, but Hashem will know it better. Now the Gemara goes on. There are 3 places it says the word shechva zera. We said one so far, but shechva harufa. What did it say? It says shechva harufa in this one. About what? The which one?
In this parasha,
Yes. What did it say?
Shechvat Zera,
By what?
by the Kohen, something there.
Just talking about the tumah, that they touch the shechva zera, but I don't remember that it says. But here the Gemara says 3 places it says that that a relationship of shechva zera, which means semen, but I think the Gemara takes it just to mean a complete bia. Let's see what the Gemara says. There are 3 places where it says shechva zera, that the relationship was shechva zera. Rashi says over here, does Rashi say? When it says that do not have relations with a married woman, so it says don't to the wife of your another man, another Jew, do not give your lying lezera. The shchivta lezera. It says shechva zera by the isra of eshes ish. It also says by sota that it says for shachad visho sa shechva zera that she was secluded with somebody and they had relations. That would mean mamish eshes ish that had relations. Also the same thing. And the first one was by shivcha charufa. So why does it say 3 times this issue? Each one. Why does it say? So the more thoughts now. The shivcha charufa kedamar. Now we finished learning already that over there there's no isra. Not the transgression is not when they just had hara. Just the tchilas bia. The beginning of the penetration is not going to be enough. That's an exception to the rule. Over there it's not. It was a complete bia. How about by eshes ish? The Gemara is not going to say the eshes ish is only going to be about complete bia. On the contrary, the Gemara said no. Eshes ish is like anybody else. And over there, even the beginning of a penetration would have been already the transgression of having relationship with eshes ish. So why does it say the word shechva zera? The mishamash meis. The mishamash meis doesn't mean that he's dead. If he's dead, he's not mishamash. But meis means that it's a dead organ. That means that it's not without erection. That he does have relations, means that his organ penetrated somewhat. We'll see soon how much it could. But whatever is possible, but it was not erect. It was not. It was called a dead organ. So that's not chayiv. Even if it would have penetrated enough. מה זה נידה?
If you find the
that just means that he should wait until it dies and it should go down in order that he shouldn't he shouldn't leave when he's in erection. Here it's saying that if he had tashmish, he had penetration and it was without erection, so then he wouldn't be chayim. The Gemara says not so simple. There's machlokas about this, that maybe if he had relations with an erva, with a dead organ, still chayiv. So then you didn't explain it. So you have to say another teretz. That the woman is dead. For some reason, he had such a kind of a time that they have relations with a dead woman. She's eshes ish and she died, and he's going to have relations with her in a dead body. You might have thought that he's chayiv. Be fine. And this week's parsha, today's parsha, where it said Kiyim l'sheiro akavol ve'lov, and the more turns out that it means a wife, and it's called that he's matami to his wife, and he's called his wife. She's called his wife even after she's dead. So you might think that also far as eshes ish, if someone has this craze to have relations with her after she's dead, also it's going to be chayv eshes ish kamash not. So that answers the second question. Why does it say shechva? Why does it say shechva zera by eshes ish? To say that wouldn't be chayv if he would have mishamish with her if she's dead.
And we're talking about another man that had like adultery.
Yeah, he's gonna on the dead body he's gonna have relations. So you might think that it's chayv kamash not. And the first thing, mishamash meis, if the organ is dead, that's machlokas. If someone has relations with a dead organ, not dead, but no erection, is that chayv? That means to be a machlokas. And the last one was by sota. How come it says What's the difference? So it doesn't say. The Brisa wants us to speak a clean language, so it doesn't say what. So we're supposed to figure it out. What's that? That he warned her she shouldn't have relations with somebody. He was suspecting her that she had relations with somebody with a different man. Shalokadaka means not the regular way of having beer, but shalokadaka, rectal relations. Amalei Rabba Mishkevei Ishak. You don't need a pasuk for that. This is not a pasuk over there. That it also says Mishkevei Isha that every time that a woman is chayiv, there's not a pasuk to say that is chayiv even if it will be shalokadaka. So you don't need a special pasuk to say that he's chayiv that Mishkevei Isha. What is the Gemara saying? I think the Gemara is asking that it wouldn't be true that Mishkevei Isha would say even the shalokadaka would be the same thing. Does Rashi say that? I think Rashi said no. That's something else. That's said by Yizachar. That's something else. That's by Yizachar. Here we're talking about the woman. She would not be chai. Wouldn't be considered a stira. It wouldn't be considered a sota. She doesn't become a sota from that. But the Gemara is asking why not? Mishkevei Ishak and
she's secluded.
Right, seclusion is seclusion. She didn't have very well. We're talking about she becomes us to her husband only if she would have. The seclusion. So here Rashi talks about that if he only warned her about this, it's not enough of a warning. Means that the seclusion enough doesn't make her rasa only if there was a warning and then seclusion. Kine is tira. He has to first warn her. Yeah. So the warning alone was not a good enough of a warning. If he just said, "I warn you not to have relations with him," in such a way, that's not enough of a warning. That's what the Gemara seems to talk about. Rashi has two pshatim. It's one of Rashi's two pshatim. But the Gemara seems to be asking that no, it's not true. That mishkevei isha means that the mishkevei is lashon plural. It means there are two ways that a person could have relations with a woman, kedarka, shlo kedarka, and the fact that it says mishkevei lashon rabim seems to say that there's no difference. And if the halacha would be that she becomes a sota kedarka, she becomes a sota also shlo kedarka. The Gemara doesn't see a difference, so it's not true. Amalei ella amarava prata shekina lo derech yivarim. Derech yivarim just means that they had sexual relations without actual penetration, no penetration at all. Another Eivarim, different parts of her body that he would have had contact with, and that's not going to be enough of a kinui to make her a sota. But Amalei Abaye Pritzus Am Rachmana Aser Rachmana, you need a pasuk for that. It wasn't the relations at all. Of course, it's Pritzus. No, No. Stira doesn't make her mamash. It only makes if there's a chashash that she had relations. Of course, no, that's the reason why. But it has to be that the kinu would have been a legal kinu. It has to be a kinu that they wonder that you shouldn't have relations. You shouldn't seclude it for the purpose of relations. So the Gemara is saying what kind of relations? A real relation. Shlokadak is also a real relation. Here the Gemara thinks that the priest is vulnerable. Of course it's terrible, but it's not going to make her into a kinu stira to become a sota that she's going to die or that it's not enough of a kinu. The neshika doesn't. The word neshika means a kiss, but it doesn't mean a kiss that we call a kiss on the lips. It means that the word neshika means touching. So it means that penetration just touched. It means that the organ just touched osamakum, not that it penetrated. So and he said that he was choshesh for that, or he warned about that. And that's what the pasuk is saying, that is not considered a sota. Now we're getting into the subject. Means this whole subject, we said in the whole time, the whole paragraph talking about hara, the beginning of a penetration. What's the beginning? There's going to be a machlokus in a couple of lines. What does hara mean? Just touching, just that the Aver touches, presses against the osamakum, it didn't penetrate at all, it seems. It just touched it. Is that enough to be considered hara? Or it has to at least be achnasas hatara. The word hatara is a crown that means what they think in English is called the corona, which is the top part of the organ. So there's that'll have to go in. Achnasas hatara is more than a shika. The shika means that it just touches that place, and achnasas hatara means that at least the corona penetrates. So the Gemara says if it only would have been neshika, it's not enough. But the Gemara says we're going to see a second machlokus about that. So that means only if the corona penetrated, that's considered a beginning. Less than that is nothing. But some say that is considered a hara already, and it should be chayiv, so it should be a sota. Back to the pshat before, that he warned her not to have any kind of a contact, any kind of sexual contact, even if it was not penetrating at all. Before the Gemara said Pitzusa Balma, the Gemara didn't see a chiddush on that. And now the Gemara says there is a chiddush. I just lost the place. Where are we?
I guess I went so fast. Where's the Avery here?
What was that?
Avery.
Avery means the different organs of the different limbs of the body. that he would use his organ on other parts of her body.
Oh.
Nothing to do with Osam Makom. And you might have, and the first thing Gemara said that's nothing to do, it's terrible, but nothing to do with Sota. And then the Gemara says you might think that yes, you might think that if the husband says a warning about that, that's also enough to make her into a Sota. Kamash Malana. It's something that the Chamin paid to the Baal Tal Tal Rachmanavaka Kapit Kamash Malana. You might think that if a husband bothers the husband enough to warn about that, that's also reason to make her a Sota. Kamash Malana, only if he's choshed her about actual relations, and only if there was a possibility she had passport relations, mamish. But if the whole thing was only about sexual contact, but not about an actual relation, so and it wouldn't be make her into a Sota. And now the rest of the Gemara goes into what we just finished speaking about. What does hara mean? The word hara seems to be translation, seems to be the beginning of a penetration. But how much is the beginning? And we just said two possibilities. One is neshika, and one is achnasas haTorah. Neshika means that the organ just touches on the osam makom, and achnasas haTorah means that the corona enters. So that's going to be the machlokas now. Amar Shmuel. Now just look at the yellow enough. So many people talk about the subject, and it does. I think the highlighting helps a little bit. Amar Shmuel hara zu neshika. Shmuel holds that hara is even just that the organ touched the osam makom. That's enough to be considered hara. If a person will put his finger on his mouth, it somewhat it presses against. That's enough. The fact that the organ presses against the osam makom, that's enough to be considered a beginning. And that whatever we spoke about haras chayiv by Arias and by yevamos kona and all these things by Arias, by chayiv lavin, by chayiv kuna, chayiv yasei, yevamos everything. So that's what hara means. Hara means just the pressing of the organ against the osam makom. That was Shmuel. Now Rabbi Yochanan, yes,
Nothing.
that's good. So that was Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan is quoted by many people. We're going just to look a second, an overview. You have Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan. You have Rav Dimya, Rabbi Yochanan. You have Ravana, Rabbi Yochanan, and you have here Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Rabbi Yochanan. So what do they say? He's not talking about a shika. He's talking about Gemara Bia. He wants to know what's considered. He said Shivcha Chruv is an exception, and over there, hara is not enough to be chayiv. It has to be dafka a complete. What's complete? He says achnasas haTorah is called complete. That if the corona entered, that's called a complete. So he's very much on the same language as Shmuel. Shmuel says that neshika is hara is neshika, and achnasas haTorah is complete. So these two are in sync with each other. Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan is on the same page. Hara is just neshika, and achnasas haTorah is already called the Gemara Bia. Maslav Rav Sheshes. How could you say that? It says in the Brisa, Shechva Zera ein l'chayiv ela al bias hamiruk. It says by Shevcha Charufa, it says Shevcha Zera, and it says only chayiv by Shevcha Charufa bias hamiruk. Miruk means completion. Like how does it say over there? We say it miruk avalo de yisurim. How do you say it in Yom Kippur? We say by the video at the end of the tefillah we say. And a maskal b'mitzvah omim lo mirok. Mirok means to finish off. Mirok means to finish. A maskal b'mitzvah omim lo mirok. Omim lo mirok means it says that also. Gemara. It also says omim lo mirok. So here he says that has to be miruk. It has to be finished. So how could he say that it means achnasas haTorah is enough to be considered a Gemara Bia? Gemara Bia means miruk, complete. My love miruk yid, it means that the whole organ has to be entering. Lo miruk haTorah, that the whole corona has to enter. That's also called miruk. It means complete. Complete what? Complete haTorah, the whole corona. So that
Rashi says miruk shemasrin.
So the Gemara says at the bottom that doesn't sound like that. The bottom place says that means that the whole the two choices here. Well, how can you say masriach? We just said that it means achnasas haTorah. So that means that it doesn't mean. Okay, but that means that would mean if it means miruk gid, but I don't think that the word itself means shechva zera. You find the word other places. We can look into it more, but I think that also means complete. What do you say about that? Same thing. No. He's the opposite. He says that hara. So far we said hara is neshika, and Rabbi Bachana also said that he said that achnasas haTorah is considered a Gemara Bia. But now, so far they were in sync. Shmuel and Rabbi Bachana and Rabbi Yochanan. But Rabbi Yochanan said hara zu achnasas haTorah. That he says that achnasas haTorah that's hara. Not Gemara Bia. That's hara. They told Rav Dimi. Rabbi Bachana quoted differently. He says that achnasas haTorah is Gemara Bia. You're saying that it's hara. Amalahu. Oh, Iu Shakri. Oh, not Shakri. Oh, he's lying. Or I'm lying. One of us is wrong. Either I'm right or he's right. Both of us quoting Rabbi Yochanan. One of us made a mistake. What does he say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan? The same thing as Shmuel. No, he says also the same as Rav Dimi. Rabbi and Rav Dimi say the same thing, word for word. Okay, so we have Rav Dimi and Rav Yochanan on the same side, and either he's right or Rabbi Yochanan is right. He says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that Achnasas HaTorah is Gemar Bia, and they say Achnasas HaTorah is only Aschol, it's only Hara. The Gemara says, they surely argue Rabbi Chana because what's Achnasas HaTorah? He said, Rabbi Chana said that it's considered a Gemar Bia, and both of them, Rav Dimi and Rav, both of them said that it's considered only Hara. But the question is, is it necessary to say that they're arguing also on Shmuel? What does Shmuel say? Shmuel said Hara is Neshika, and they said Hara is Achnasas HaTorah. Does that necessarily argue? So the one says no, not necessarily. Lo doesn't have to argue. He just then the shika starts. The shika is called hara. That's also enough to be called hara. But Achnasas HaTorah is not yet called marbia. That whole amount from a touching until Achnasas HaTorah, that's all called hara. But it does argue in Rav Dimi because Rav Dimi says that Achnasas HaTorah is considered marbia already. That surely argues on. But those who say that hara is Neshika, and those who say that Hara is Achnasas HaTorah is not that for the argument on each other. Both of them could be true. But now, Kiyas Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yehuda Rabbi Yochanan, Hara is Achnasas HaTorah. Gemar Bia is Gemar Bia Mamish. That he says that Gemar Bia has to be Mamish. And Achnasas HaTorah, that's only considered the beginning. And less than that, which is only Neshika, is nothing. Mikan ve'e, top of the next page, Mikan ve'elech, ein ela Neshika patur aleh. Less than that is nothing. So that's surely probably got the Shmuel. So we have two opinions. We have maybe three opinions. One opinion was that Neshika is considered the beginning. So whenever you chayiv ha'ara, it's Neshika alone. Some say that that's nothing. That's the list people have. That's nothing. It's only Achnasas HaTorah. And some might say it's considered the beginning. Less than that's not considered the beginning even. Less than that's not considered the beginning even. And there might be a possibility that someone would hold that it's considered the beginning from Neshika. And Achnasas HaTorah is also considered the beginning. And Shifcha Harufa, that's only chayiv by complete. Maybe it's only complete if it's completely complete. Not only a Torah, but the whole gid has to be in. Maybe also has to be Mazvir. I think Tosfos says not. Tosfos says not there. So those are the two or three choices. Just to sum up the sugya. Our Mishnah. So Tosfos says not. Tosfos says just means that the whole labor is in. The whole organ is in. Where's that?
The last of the bottom of the page.
The bottom of the page.
Hara.
And what is Gemar Bia? What is Gemar Bia? Question mark. Gemar Bia Mamish.
Gemar Bia Mamash.
And that's more than Achnasas HaTorah. That's more than that. That Torah is only a beginning. So that means that Gemar Bia has to be a Gemar Bia Mamash.
Is that only by Shifcha Harufa?
Yeah, that's the only place. That's the only place we need it so far. That only by Shifcha Harufa is there a din of a Gemar Bia Mamash. And so what is the beginning? What's considered a beginning? So one opinion said Neshika alone is considered a beginning, that the organ just touches, that's considered enough. Some say it's not even a beginning yet, only if the Torah at least goes in. And some say that whole thing might be considered just the beginning, and the Gemar Bia is only going to be more than that. But actually, here's Tosfos over here. Tosfos on the bottom, near. You see, right? That's what you see. Tosfos on the bottom here. Nearer than Mechai b'Shifcha Harufa afilu b'lo azera. You see this Tosfos? Yes, the Ruya Lazriya. And it's mashma that by a roll alone it's not enough. It has to be completely in order to be Ruya Lazriya. Okay, so the halachas today, I think, were very simple. And say what happened over here. Yeah, we stopped screening. Yeah, that the halachas were, I think, were relatively simple. That as far as what's considered a brother and a sister, as far as everything we saw, there's no difference if it's a paternal sister or a maternal sister, a brother. That even if it's only from a common mother is enough, except for dodaso, means this: to marry your father's brother's wife is only if it's a father-brother from a common father. And also we saw that the din of Yibum. What?
There was two exceptions.
I think there's only one. Maybe also the Yibum. That's one exception. And Yibum also is only by a brother's wife, a brother from a common father. That we did see also. That the din of Yibum is only right. Okay, and then we had the din about Hara, and we said that the din of Hara is enough to make chayiv by chayiv krisus, chayiv lavin dekuna, chayiv asay, yevamos l'shuk, of course, like any chayiv lavin asay, and also the kinyan of yavam is also by Hara, and also isha labala. Also, the kinyan happens with Hara alone. all that was good with different drushes. And the last question we had was what Haroah is. We had Mchokes if it means Neshika or Achnasas HaTorah. And Shifcha Charuf is an exception. That has to be a Gemar Bia. What's a Gemar Bia is also that question. And then we had also another two places where it says it. One is by Eishes Ish. What was the purpose over there? Either to say that Eivor Mace is not Chayiv, or if Eivor Mace is Chayiv, so then if the woman is dead, then there's no Chayiv of Eishes Ish, if you have relations with a dead woman. And the by Sota, the Gemara came out. How does it come out? How did the Gemara come out? That if you hold that Neshika is nothing, so that'll be the drasha to say that Neshika is not considered a good kinoi, or if it was the Neshika, it was a kinoi derech evorim, even though it's only pritzus, that also would have havamina that would be considered a sota. She's not, but the answer is no. She's not a sota with that alone. Only would have been for relations. Yashikach. Thank you, everybody. Shavua tov.